A betrayal so cold-blooded. Part 1: The Perfect Wife. The rain fell relentlessly over the quiet town of Ashford, washing the streets in silver and hiding secrets beneath its endless curtain. Detective Marcus Hale stood outside a two-story Victorian house, staring at the flashing police lights reflecting off the wet pavement. A woman sat on the front porch wrapped in a blanket, trembling as paramedics checked her vital signs. Her name was Evelyn Carter. Her husband was dead, and according to her story, he had tried to kill her before taking his own life. Inside the house, officers moved carefully through the crime scene. The victim, Daniel Carter, 38 years old, was lying face down in his home office. A revolver rested beside his hand. At first glance, it looked straightforward. A murder-suicide. A husband snaps. A wife survives. Case closed. But Marcus had learned long ago that the truth rarely looked like the first version people wanted to believe. He stepped toward Evelyn. She looked exhausted, beautiful despite the shock. Long dark hair clung to her face from the rain. Her eyes were red from crying. When she noticed Marcus approaching, fresh tears rolled down her cheeks. "Detective," she whispered. "I'm sorry for your loss." She nodded weakly. He wasn't himself anymore. "What happened tonight?" Evelyn swallowed. "We argued." "About what?" "Money." Marcus waited. Daniel had become obsessed with debts and investments. He was angry all the time. He accused me of things. "What things?" She hesitated. "Cheating." Marcus noted the pause. "Was there any truth to that?" Her eyes widened. "No." The answer came quickly. Too quickly. She looked away. Marcus filed that away. "What happened after the argument?" "He left the bedroom. I heard him downstairs." Her voice shook. "Then I heard a gunshot." She burst into tears. "When I came down, he pointed the gun at me. He said everything was ruined. He said if he couldn't have me, nobody could. And then he fired." Marcus glanced at her shoulder. A bandage covered a superficial wound. The bullet had barely grazed her. "He missed." She nodded. "I ran outside. Then I heard another shot." The detective remained silent. Evelyn looked at him. "You don't believe me." "I haven't decided what I believe." For the first time, a flash of irritation crossed her face. Then it vanished, replaced by grief. An impressive performance. Marcus left her with the paramedics and entered the house. The crime scene bothered him. Not because of what was there, because of what wasn't. A struggle. Signs of panic. Chaos. Everything looked strangely neat. Too neat. The office was immaculate. Books perfectly aligned. Desk spotless. Chair pushed in. Even the victim's clothing looked undisturbed. If Daniel had truly attacked his wife before turning the gun on himself, why did the room feel staged? Marcus crouched beside the body. Daniel's face was frozen in surprise. Not rage. Not despair. Surprise. Almost as though he had seen something unexpected in his final seconds. Something he never anticipated. The forensic examiner approached. "Strange one." Marcus looked up. "What do you have?" "The angle." "What about it?" "It doesn't fit." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "How so?" The examiner pointed. "If he shot himself, he'd have needed an awkward wrist position." Marcus stared. "Possible. Sure. But unlikely." The detective's instincts sharpened. Sometimes investigations began with evidence. Other times they began with a feeling. A whisper that something wasn't right. Tonight that whisper was becoming louder. 3 days later, the entire town mourned Daniel Carter. Friends described him as intelligent, hardworking, devoted to his wife. Nobody described him as violent. Nobody described him as unstable. Yet Evelyn's version of events painted a completely different picture. Marcus spent hours reviewing Daniel's life. Financial records, phone records, emails, social media. The deeper he looked, the less sense the story made. Daniel wasn't drowning in debt. He wasn't bankrupt. He wasn't desperate. In fact, he was about to become very wealthy. A recent business deal was worth millions. The timing caught Marcus's attention. Daniel dies. His wife inherits everything. Coincidence? Maybe. But detectives learned not to trust coincidences. Then another detail emerged. Life insurance. $5 million. Policy updated 6 months earlier. Beneficiary? Evelyn Carter. Marcus leaned back in his chair. A motive was beginning to take shape. But motive alone wasn't enough. He needed proof. Meanwhile, Evelyn played the role of grieving widow perfectly. She attended the funeral dressed in black. She cried at exactly the right moments. She accepted condolences graciously. Everyone sympathized with her. Everyone except Marcus. Because while reviewing Daniel's phone records, he'd found something unusual. A number that appeared repeatedly. Hundreds of calls. Hundreds of messages. Not from Evelyn. From another man. Ryan Mercer. Marcus requested a background check. The results arrived quickly. Ryan Mercer. 35. Personal trainer. Single. No criminal record. The detective smiled grimly. Interesting. Very interesting. He arranged a meeting. Ryan appeared calm when he arrived at the station. Too calm. Marcus studied him. How did you know Evelyn Carter? Ryan shrugged. We were friends. Friends. Yes. Marcus slid photographs across the table. Pictures from traffic cameras. Restaurants. Hotels. Weekend trips. Ryan's confidence faltered. That's not friendship. Silence. Marcus leaned forward. How long were you sleeping with her? Ryan looked away. The answer was obvious. Long enough. Eventually he sighed. Almost 2 years. Marcus wasn't surprised. Did Daniel know? No. Another lie. Marcus could see it instantly. Try again. Ryan swallowed. He found out 3 months ago. There it was. The truth. What happened? He wanted a divorce. Marcus's eyes narrowed. And Evelyn? She didn't want one. Why not? Ryan hesitated. Then said the words Marcus had expected. Money. The investigation accelerated. Financial records revealed hidden transfers. Secret accounts. Expensive gifts purchased for Ryan. Luxury vacations. Thousands upon thousands of dollars. All funded by Daniel. The betrayed husband had unknowingly financed the affair that was destroying his marriage. Marcus obtained search warrants. More evidence surfaced. Then came the breakthrough. A deleted text message recovered from Evelyn's phone. One message. Sent to Ryan 2 weeks before Daniel's death. Soon we'll never have to worry about him again. Marcus stared at the screen. A chill crawled down his spine. The wording wasn't definitive. But it was dangerous. Very dangerous. He knew they were getting close. Close enough that someone might panic. Close enough that mistakes would be made. And mistakes were exactly what he needed. That night Evelyn sat alone in her luxurious home. The same home where her husband had died. She poured herself a glass of wine. Her hands shook. For the first time since the murder, fear was beginning to overwhelm her confidence. The detective wasn't letting go. Most investigators would have accepted the suicide narrative. Marcus Hale wasn't most investigators. He kept digging. And every day he uncovered another piece. Another clue. Another crack in the story she had built. Her phone rang. Ryan. She answered immediately. We have a problem. His voice sounded panicked. What happened? The police searched my apartment. Her stomach tightened. Did they find anything? I don't know. Fear flooded her chest. For months she had believed she was untouchable. The perfect crime. The perfect victim. The perfect widow. Now she wasn't so sure. Because somewhere in the darkness, Detective Marcus Hale was putting the puzzle together. And when he finally saw the complete picture, everything would collapse. The lies, the affair, the fortune, the carefully staged murder, and the sinister secret she had killed to protect. Detective Marcus Hale had investigated murders for nearly 15 years. He had seen jealous lovers, greedy relatives, professional criminals. But the most dangerous killers were often the ones who appeared harmless. People who smiled. People who cried on command. people who convinced the world they were victims. And Evelyn Carter was proving to be one of them. The recovered text message haunted him. Soon we'll never have to worry about him again. The words alone weren't enough for an arrest. But they were enough to keep digging. And Marcus intended to dig until he reached the truth. The following morning, forensic analyst Sarah Bishop entered his office carrying a folder. "I found something." Marcus looked up immediately. "What is it?" "The gunshot residue results." His attention sharpened. "Tell me." Sarah opened the file. Evelyn's hands tested positive. Marcus frowned. "She claimed Daniel fired the gun." "Exactly." Sarah nodded. "Yet significant residue was found on both her hands." Marcus leaned back. "Could transfer explain it?" "Some of it, maybe." She paused. "But not this amount." A silence settled over the room. Another crack in Evelyn's story. Another piece of the puzzle. "Anything else?" Sarah smiled grimly. "The blood spatter." Marcus sat forward. "What about it?" "The patterns don't match her statement." His pulse quickened. "Explain." "If Daniel shot at her before killing himself, we'd expect certain trajectories. And we don't have them." Marcus stood. "What do we have?" Sarah's expression darkened. "Evidence suggesting Daniel was already dead before the second shot was fired." The room fell silent. Marcus stared at her. "You mean the shot that supposedly grazed Evelyn?" Sarah nodded. "Exactly." For the first time, the case transformed in his mind. This wasn't a murder-suicide. It wasn't a domestic dispute gone wrong. It was something colder, something planned. Someone had killed Daniel, then fired a second shot to create a story. And the only person present was Evelyn. That afternoon, Marcus received a call from Daniel's attorney. The lawyer sounded nervous. "There's something you should see." An hour later, Marcus arrived at the law office. The attorney handed him a sealed envelope. "Daniel left instructions." "What kind of instructions?" The lawyer hesitated. "He told me if anything happened to him unexpectedly, I should give this to law enforcement." Marcus's heartbeat accelerated. He carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. The date was 2 weeks before Daniel's death. Marcus began reading. As the words unfolded, his expression changed. Then changed again. And again. By the time he reached the end, he understood why the lawyer looked so unsettled. The letter read, "If you are reading this, I may already be dead. I don't know exactly what Evelyn is planning, but I'm afraid of her. 3 months ago, I discovered her affair with Ryan Mercer. When confronted, she wasn't sorry. She wasn't ashamed. She was angry that I found out. Since then, I've noticed strange things. Conversations that stop when I enter a room. Money disappearing. Threats disguised as jokes. I know how this sounds, but if something happens to me, please investigate my wife. I believe she is capable of more than anyone realizes." Marcus lowered the letter. The room felt suddenly colder. Daniel had known. Not everything, but enough. Enough to fear his own wife. Enough to leave a warning. That evening, Marcus visited Ryan Mercer again. This time, the interview felt different. The pressure was building, and Ryan knew it. The man's confidence was disappearing. Marcus sat across from him. "You lied to me." Ryan looked exhausted. "What now?" "You said Daniel didn't know about the affair." Ryan sighed. "I didn't want trouble." "You already have trouble." Silence. Marcus placed the letter on the table. Ryan's face lost color. "You recognize his handwriting?" No response. Marcus leaned forward. "How involved were you?" Ryan's voice trembled. "I never wanted anyone hurt." Marcus noticed the wording. Not innocent. Not denial. Just regret. A dangerous distinction. "What happened the night Daniel died?" Ryan stared at the floor. Seconds passed. Then minutes. Finally, he whispered. "She said she had everything under control." Marcus felt a surge of adrenaline. "What does that mean?" Ryan closed his eyes. "I don't know." "You're lying." "No." "Then tell me." Ryan swallowed. "Evelyn told me Daniel would soon be out of our lives. The room became silent. Marcus knew he was getting close, very close, but he still lacked the final piece. The piece that would expose everything. The breakthrough arrived unexpectedly. Forensic accountants uncovered transactions hidden behind layers of transfers. At first they appeared unrelated. Small amounts, scattered payments, easy to overlook. But together they painted a disturbing picture. Months before Daniel's death, Evelyn had secretly withdrawn hundreds of thousands of dollars. The money didn't go to Ryan. It didn't go to luxury purchases. It went somewhere else. Someone else. Private investigator. Marcus immediately tracked him down. The investigator, named Victor Lang, appeared uncomfortable from the moment questioning began. "What did Evelyn hire you for?" Victor hesitated. "I can't discuss client matters." Marcus slid a warrant across the table. "Actually, you can." Victor stared at it, then sighed heavily. "She wanted information." "What kind?" "Background checks." Marcus waited. "On who?" Victor's answer changed everything. "Daniel." Marcus blinked. "Her husband?" "Yes." "Why?" Victor shook his head. "She believed he was getting too close." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. Too close to what? Victor looked genuinely nervous. To something from her past. Now Marcus had a new direction. A new mystery. Something Evelyn desperately wanted hidden. Something important enough to kill for. 3 days later the answer arrived. And it shocked everyone involved. Marcus finally obtained records from another state. Records buried nearly 15 years in the past. Records connected to a different name. Because Evelyn Carter wasn't born Evelyn Carter. Her real name was Evelyn Brooks. And 15 years earlier she had vanished. Disappeared overnight. Changed identities. Started a new life. Marcus reviewed the file. At first it seemed minor. Then he reached the final pages. And understood everything. 15 years ago, a young businessman named Michael Brooks had died under suspicious circumstances. Official ruling. Accidental overdose. Case closed. But investigators had always suspected foul play. The primary person of interest? Michael's wife, Evelyn Brooks. The same woman now calling herself Evelyn Carter. Marcus stared at the photograph. The younger version of Evelyn smiled confidently at the camera. Beautiful. Charming. Dangerous. Her first husband had died. Now her second husband was dead too. Both deaths surrounded by financial gain. Both deaths benefiting her. Both deaths occurring shortly before major inheritances. The odds were impossible. This wasn't coincidence. This was a pattern. A horrifying pattern. That night Marcus sat alone in his office. Rain hammered the windows. Files covered every surface. Photos. Financial records. Witness statements. Forensic reports. A mountain of evidence. Yet something still bothered him. One question remained unanswered. How exactly had Daniel died? The answer arrived shortly after midnight. A toxicology report. Marcus opened it. Read the first line. Then froze. His eyes widened. The report revealed a powerful sedative in Daniel's bloodstream. A dosage high enough to leave him helpless. Barely conscious. Unable to defend himself. Unable to fight. Unable to resist. Marcus slowly lowered the paper. Everything suddenly made sense. The tidy crime scene. The lack of struggle. The surprised expression on Daniel's face. He hadn't expected an attack from a stranger. He had trusted the person standing in front of him. His wife. The woman he loved. The woman who had smiled at him over breakfast. The woman who had kissed him goodnight. The woman who had secretly drugged him. And then killed him. Marcus looked out at the storm. For months Evelyn had believed she committed the perfect crime. But perfect crimes don't exist. Every lie leaves a footprint. Every deception creates a crack. And now those cracks were becoming impossible to hide. The only question remaining was whether Evelyn would surrender peacefully, or whether she would kill again to protect her secret. The storm intensified over Ashford. Lightning split the night sky as Detective Marcus Hale stared at the toxicology report. The final pieces were falling into place. Daniel Carter had not committed suicide. He had been drugged, then murdered. The evidence was now overwhelming. But Marcus still needed something stronger. A confession, a witness, or a mistake so devastating that Evelyn could no longer escape. And he suspected that mistake was about to happen. Because killers often make one fatal error. They believe they're smarter than everyone else. Across town, Evelyn Carter sat alone in her mansion. The house felt different now. Haunted. Every creak of the floorboards reminded her of Daniel. Every shadow seemed alive. For the first time since the murder, she felt something unfamiliar. Fear. Not guilt. Not remorse. Fear. Fear of being caught. Her phone vibrated. Ryan. Again. She answered immediately. What now? Ryan sounded panicked. They know about the money. Evelyn closed her eyes. Calm down. Calm down, he snapped. The police have questioned me 3 times this week. You won't tell them anything. Ryan hesitated. That hesitation terrified her. Because she suddenly realized something. Ryan was weak. Very weak. And weak people broke under pressure. The next morning Marcus received a call. It was Ryan. I need to talk. Marcus's pulse quickened. When? Now. 30 minutes later Ryan sat across from him at the station. He looked exhausted. His eyes were bloodshot. His hands trembled. A man collapsing under the weight of his choices. Marcus waited. Finally Ryan spoke. I didn't kill Daniel. Marcus remained silent. But I knew. The words hung heavily in the air. You knew what? Ryan swallowed. Evelyn planned something. Marcus leaned forward. What exactly? I don't know every detail. Tell me what you do know. Ryan lowered his head. About a month before Daniel died, Evelyn asked me a strange question. What question? She asked how long certain drugs remained in a person's system. Marcus's heartbeat accelerated. What else? She kept talking about freedom. Ryan's voice shook. She said Daniel was standing between us and a perfect life. Marcus wrote carefully. Every word mattered. Did she ever discuss killing him directly? Ryan hesitated, then nodded. Very slightly. The room became silent. What did she say? Ryan closed his eyes. She said accidents happen every day. Marcus stared at him. A chill ran down his spine. With Ryan's statement secured, investigators intensified their search. They re-examined everything. Every room. Every receipt. Every digital device. Then they found it. A hidden laptop. Locked inside a safe behind a painting. When forensic technicians accessed the files, they uncovered something shocking. Search history. Months of research. Topics included how to stage a suicide, detecting gunshot residue, inheritance laws, life insurance payouts, drug overdoses, untraceable poisons. Marcus reviewed the evidence slowly. Each search was another nail in Evelyn's coffin. But the most disturbing file was a document simply titled, Plan. Inside were detailed notes, timelines, contingencies, alibis, even instructions on how to appear emotionally convincing during police interviews. Marcus sat speechless. The murder had not been spontaneous. It had been rehearsed, calculated, engineered, like a business project. Daniel's death had been scheduled months in advance. The document also revealed exactly what happened that night. And the truth was horrifying. On the evening of Daniel's death, Evelyn prepared his favorite meal. She smiled, laughed, acted loving. Daniel never suspected anything. Why would he? He was eating dinner with his wife, the woman he trusted most. The sedative was hidden in his wine. Powerful dosage. Enough to weaken him. Not enough to kill him. That came later. According to the notes, Evelyn waited until he became disoriented, then encouraged him to move to his office. When he could barely stand, she retrieved the revolver. Daniel reportedly realized something was wrong, but by then it was too late. His body wouldn't cooperate. His mind was clouded. The last person he saw was the woman he loved. The last expression on his face was confusion. And then she pulled the trigger. Marcus stared at the reconstruction. Years in homicide had hardened him. But this felt different. There was something especially cruel about betrayal from a spouse. Daniel hadn't been defeated by a criminal. He hadn't been ambushed by a stranger. He had been destroyed by the person who promised to protect him. That evening an arrest warrant was approved. The operation was scheduled for dawn. Multiple officers would surround the property. Evelyn would be taken into custody. Finally, justice, or so they thought. At 4:17 a.m., Marcus's phone rang. The call woke him instantly. "Detective, we have a problem." His stomach tightened. "What happened?" "It's Ryan." Marcus sat upright. "What about him?" "He's dead." The room seemed to freeze. "What?" "He was found in his apartment an hour ago." Marcus's blood ran cold. "Cause of death? Possible overdose." Marcus immediately knew. This wasn't an overdose. It was another murder. Another witness silenced. Another loose end eliminated. And only one person had a reason to do it. Evelyn. When officers arrived at Ryan's apartment, they discovered a scene eerily similar to the one from 15 years earlier involving Evelyn's first husband. The same drugs. The same setup. The same appearance of accidental death. Marcus stood inside the apartment staring at the body. The realization hit him hard. For years Evelyn had refined her methods. Learned from mistakes. Adapted. Evolved. Daniel wasn't her first victim. Ryan wasn't her second. How many others had there been? The question haunted him. The arrest team moved immediately. No waiting. No dawn operation. They headed straight for Evelyn's house. Lights flashing. Sirens silent. Marcus led the convoy himself. The mansion appeared dark. Still. Almost peaceful. Too peaceful. Officers surrounded the property. Weapons ready. Marcus approached the front door. Then stopped. The door was slightly open. A bad sign. A very bad sign. He pushed it gently. The house was empty. Silent. Cold. No Evelyn. No luggage. No vehicle. Nothing. She was gone. The realization hit like a punch. Somehow she had learned they were coming. And she had escaped. Marcus stared into the darkness. Months of investigation. Thousands of hours. Countless clues. And now the suspect had vanished. But one thing was certain. Evelyn Carter wasn't running because she was innocent. She was running because she knew the game was over. The only question now was, how far would she go to stay free? Because a woman capable of murdering 2 husbands and a lover would do almost anything to survive. And somewhere out there, hidden in the shadows, Evelyn was already planning her next move. The news spread across the country within hours. Murder suspect Evelyn Carter had disappeared. Television stations interrupted regular programming. News websites published her photograph. Police agencies in multiple states joined the search. The public saw a beautiful widow accused of murdering her husband. Detective Marcus Hale saw something very different. He saw a predator. A woman who had spent years perfecting deception. A woman who could smile while planning a murder. And now she was free. Marcus barely slept. Every hour Evelyn remained missing increased the danger. People like her didn't simply disappear. They reinvented themselves. They adapted. They found new victims. The more Marcus studied her past, the more terrifying the picture became. Because Evelyn Carter wasn't just hiding one secret. She was hiding an entire life. Investigators reopened the case of Michael Brooks, her first husband, the man who had supposedly died from an accidental overdose 15 years earlier. The original case files were dusty and forgotten. Most of the detectives involved had retired. Some had died. But evidence remained. Marcus spent days reviewing every document, every photograph, every witness statement, and the similarities were impossible to ignore. Michael Brooks had recently increased his life insurance policy. Just like Daniel, Michael had discovered suspicious financial activity. Just like Daniel, Michael had reportedly planned to confront his wife. Just like Daniel. And then he died. Just like Daniel. Marcus stared at the photographs. 2 dead husbands. 1 woman. The pattern was becoming undeniable. Then another revelation emerged. One that shocked even seasoned investigators. Evelyn had not inherited millions from only one husband. She had inherited from both. The total value exceeded $12 million. Marcus sat quietly after reading the report. $12 million. 2 dead husbands. A lifetime built on blood. And yet money wasn't the whole story. Something else drove her. Something darker. 3 days into the manhunt, a breakthrough arrived. A woman from another state contacted police. She recognized Evelyn's photograph. Not as Evelyn Carter. Not as Evelyn Brooks. But under another name entirely. Rebecca Stone. Marcus immediately flew to interview her. The witness was elderly. Nervous. But certain. "I know that woman." "When?" "About 8 years ago." Marcus leaned forward. "Tell me everything." The woman's hands trembled. "She worked at a charity fundraiser." "What name did she use?" "Rebecca Stone." Marcus exchanged a glance with another detective. A third identity. A third life. The witness continued. "She was dating a wealthy businessman." Marcus's heart sank. Another wealthy man. Another potential victim. What happened? The woman looked disturbed. "He disappeared." The room fell silent. Marcus felt a chill crawl down his spine. The businessman had been reported missing years earlier. Authorities never solved the case. There was no body, no murder charge, no answers, only questions. And now Evelyn's shadow appeared over that mystery too. Investigators rushed to reopen the file. The evidence was limited, but one detail stood out. The missing man had planned to change his will shortly before vanishing. A change that would have removed Rebecca Stone, Evelyn, from receiving anything. Marcus stared at the report. The pattern wasn't merely repeating. It was evolving. Each victim represented a threat. Each victim stood between Evelyn and money. Each victim disappeared. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, Evelyn sat alone inside a remote cabin. The building belonged to a deceased relative nobody knew about. It was hidden deep in the mountains, far from major roads, far from curious eyes. She watched the news on a small television. Her own face filled the screen. Wanted, dangerous, murder suspect. The labels made her laugh bitterly. They have no idea. The words escaped her lips softly, because the truth was worse, much worse. The world believed Daniel was her second victim. Even Marcus believed that. But Evelyn knew the real number, and it was higher, far higher. For years she had survived by following one simple rule. Never become attached. People were tools. Nothing more. Relationships created opportunities. Trust created access. Love created weakness. And weakness could be exploited. Michael had loved her. Daniel had loved her. Ryan had loved her. Every one of them became useful, then disposable. The memories didn't bother her. She felt no guilt, no remorse, only annoyance that someone had finally connected the pieces. Back in Ashford, Marcus received another critical development. Forensic teams had completed a full analysis of Evelyn's hidden laptop. Among thousands of files was a password-protected folder. After days of effort, specialists finally unlocked it. Inside was a collection of personal journals. Marcus began reading. At first the entries seemed ordinary. Then the tone changed. The writings revealed something chilling. Evelyn didn't view people normally. She described emotions as weaknesses, compassion as manipulation, love as a tool. One passage particularly disturbed him. It read, "The easiest people to control are those who believe they are loved." Marcus set the page down. A silence filled the room. That single sentence explained almost everything. Another journal entry contained a shocking confession. Not directly, but enough. It referenced Michael Brooks, her first husband. The entry read, "He became suspicious. He started asking questions. Once they start asking questions, they become dangerous." Marcus closed the journal. The implication was clear. Michael hadn't died by accident. He had become a problem, and Evelyn solved problems permanently. As investigators searched deeper, they uncovered bank records linked to offshore accounts. Millions of dollars hidden across multiple countries. False identities, forged documents, fake passports. Everything suggested long-term preparation. Evelyn hadn't planned merely for one murder. She had planned for eventual escape. For years, perhaps decades. Then came the break Marcus desperately needed. A gas station surveillance camera captured a woman matching Evelyn's description. The footage was grainy, but recognizable. More importantly, it revealed the direction she was traveling. Toward the mountains, toward isolation, toward the cabin nobody yet knew existed. The hunt intensified immediately. Search teams deployed. Roadblocks expanded. Helicopters joined the effort. For the first time since her disappearance, Marcus felt hope. They were getting closer. That night, as rain battered the mountains, Evelyn packed her belongings. She knew they would eventually find her. The question wasn't if, it was when, and she had no intention of spending the rest of her life behind bars. She opened a small metal box hidden beneath the floorboards. Inside was a handgun, cash, several passports, and a folded photograph. A photograph nobody knew existed. Marcus, Detective Marcus Hale. She stared at the image, then smiled. Cold, unsettling smile. Because while Marcus had spent months investigating her, she had spent months investigating him, studying him, learning his habits, his weaknesses, his family, everything. And suddenly the hunt became something much more dangerous. Because Evelyn was no longer running. She was planning. And Detective Marcus Hale was about to discover that he wasn't merely chasing a killer. He had become her next target. Detective Marcus Hale had spent his career hunting killers. He understood how they thought, how they lied, how they justified the unforgivable. But one lesson had remained constant. The most dangerous criminals were never the violent ones. They were the patient ones. The ones who planned years ahead. The ones who turned trust into a weapon. And Evelyn Carter was proving to be the most dangerous adversary he had ever faced. The morning after the gas station sighting, Marcus stood inside the command center studying a map. Red markers covered the mountain region. Search teams were closing in. Roadblocks limited escape routes. Helicopters scanned the forests. Every indication suggested Evelyn was trapped. Yet Marcus couldn't shake a feeling of unease. Something wasn't right. People like Evelyn didn't simply wait to be caught. They acted. They adapted. They attacked. His concern deepened when a forensic technician entered carrying another file from Evelyn's laptop. "We found something." Marcus looked up. "What?" The technician placed a folder on the table. "Information about you." The room fell silent. Marcus opened it slowly. Inside were photographs. Dozens of them. Pictures of his house, his car, his office, his favorite coffee shop, his jogging route. Even photographs of his younger sister, Emma. Marcus felt a chill spread through his body. This wasn't casual curiosity. This was surveillance. Months of it. Perhaps longer. The technician swallowed nervously. "It gets worse." Marcus turned another page. A handwritten note appeared. One sentence. Just 6 words. "Everyone has a weakness. Find it." For the first time in years, Marcus felt genuine fear. Not for himself. For his family. Within hours, protective details were assigned to everyone close to him. Emma was moved to a secure location. His elderly parents received police protection. No chances would be taken. Not with someone like Evelyn. Because the more they uncovered, the darker her history became. That afternoon, another discovery stunned investigators. One of Evelyn's offshore accounts contained regular payments dating back nearly 20 years. The recipient wasn't a business. It wasn't a contractor. It wasn't a lover. It was a man named Vincent Rowe. Marcus ordered an immediate background investigation. The results were shocking. Vincent Rowe had served prison time for fraud, forgery, and identity theft. He specialized in helping criminals disappear. New names, new documents, new lives, everything Evelyn had used. Marcus immediately understood. Vincent wasn't merely an associate. He was the architect of her transformations. The man who helped Evelyn Brooks become Rebecca Stone. The man who helped Rebecca Stone become Evelyn Carter. And perhaps the only person alive who knew her entire history. Agents located Vincent 3 states away. When questioned, he initially denied everything. Then investigators showed him the financial records, the photographs, the fake identities. His resistance collapsed. What he revealed changed the investigation forever. You think she killed 2 people? He laughed bitterly. You have no idea. Marcus stared. What does that mean? Vincent hesitated, then sighed. She's been doing this for years. The room became silent. How many? Vincent looked down. I don't know exactly. Marcus's voice hardened. Guess. The man swallowed. 5. Nobody spoke. 5 victims. Possibly more. Vincent described a pattern. Evelyn would enter a wealthy man's life, become indispensable, gain trust, gain access, then wait, months, years, whatever it took. Eventually money became available. Inheritance, insurance, business ownership, assets. And when obstacles appeared, the victim disappeared. Marcus listened in stunned silence. The scale of the deception was far beyond anything he had imagined. Daniel Carter had never been the main target. He was simply the latest. Then Vincent revealed one final secret, one that left the room speechless. There was another husband. Marcus froze. What? A long time ago. Vincent looked nervous. Before Michael Brooks. Marcus felt his pulse racing. A husband? Vincent nodded. Her first. The detective stared. Michael wasn't the first victim. Daniel wasn't the second. Everything was worse than they thought. Much worse. Records were difficult to locate. The marriage occurred under yet another identity. But eventually investigators found traces. Tiny fragments hidden across decades. The husband's name was Thomas Reed, a successful entrepreneur. Reported dead in a boating accident 22 years earlier. Body never recovered. Case closed. Assets inherited by his young widow. A widow who disappeared shortly afterward. Marcus stared at the photograph. The woman beside Thomas was unmistakably Evelyn. Younger, but unmistakably her. 3 husbands. 3 dead men. And now evidence suggested there were others. The realization hit like a hammer. They weren't investigating a murderer. They were investigating a serial killer. Meanwhile, deep in the mountains, Evelyn watched the storm outside her cabin. The television remained off. She no longer cared about the news. She already knew what they would find. Vincent had always been a liability. Weak, predictable. Eventually he would talk. Everyone talked eventually. That was the problem with people. Fear always defeated loyalty. Her thoughts drifted toward Marcus. The detective fascinated her. Most investigators chased evidence. Marcus chased truth. That made him dangerous. But it also made him vulnerable. Because truth seekers never quit. And people who never quit often walked directly into traps. That evening Marcus received a phone call. The number was blocked. He answered cautiously. Silence greeted him. Then a familiar voice. Hello, detective. Every muscle in his body tightened. Evelyn. At last. The call was immediately traced. But Marcus knew she expected that. Where are you? He asked calmly. A soft laugh echoed through the line. You've been looking for me. You murdered Daniel. Did I? The casual tone chilled him. You won't escape. More laughter. Then silence. Finally she spoke again. You know what your problem is, Marcus? He said nothing. You still believe people are basically good. The words carried unsettling certainty. You're wrong. Marcus kept her talking. Why call me? Pause followed. Then came her answer. Because you're the only person who ever came close. The line went dead. The trace produced a location. a mountain region approximately 20 miles wide. Not perfect, but enough. Search teams mobilized immediately. Marcus joined them personally. By midnight, dozens of officers moved through the forests. Rain poured relentlessly. Visibility was poor. Every shadow seemed alive. Every sound felt threatening. Then one team discovered tire tracks. Fresh, leading toward an isolated ridge. Marcus's heartbeat accelerated. They were close. Very close. At dawn, a helicopter spotted smoke rising through dense trees. An abandoned cabin. Search teams surrounded the area. Marcus approached cautiously. Weapon drawn. The front door hung open. Inside, the cabin was empty. But someone had been there recently. Coffee still warm. Food still fresh. She had left only minutes earlier. Then Marcus noticed something on the table. A single envelope. His name written across the front. He opened it carefully. Inside was a handwritten message. Dear Marcus, if you're reading this, you've finally caught up. Unfortunately, you're still looking in the wrong place. You think this story is about money. It never was. There is something much darker buried in my past. Something even you haven't discovered. And when you do, you'll understand why everyone had to die. See you soon. Evelyn. Marcus lowered the letter. A terrible realization formed in his mind. The murders, the identities, the money. None of it explained everything. There was still a deeper secret. A secret hidden beneath decades of lies. A secret worth killing for. And somewhere ahead, Evelyn was preparing for the final confrontation. The hunt was entering its last stage. And neither of them would leave it unchanged. The letter haunted Marcus Hale. For days, one sentence replayed endlessly in his mind. You think this story is about money. It never was. At first, he dismissed it as manipulation. Evelyn was a master manipulator. Every conversation was a game, every word a weapon. Yet something about the message felt genuine. Not remorseful, not emotional, just truthful. And that frightened him more than any lie. Because if the murders weren't primarily about money, then what were they about? The answer arrived through an old, forgotten box buried in a courthouse archive. A retired clerk discovered it while searching historical records connected to Evelyn's earliest identity. Inside were documents dating back nearly 30 years. Marcus opened the box expecting routine paperwork. Instead, he uncovered a nightmare. Photographs, police reports, medical evaluations, witness statements, all connected to one event, a house fire. The fire had killed 3 people, a father, a mother, and a younger brother. Only one person survived, a 14-year-old girl named Evelyn Brooks. Marcus read every page. The tragedy had shocked the community. Authorities concluded the blaze was accidental. Faulty wiring. Case closed. But one report stood out. A detective's handwritten note. It had never been officially filed. The note read, "Survivor's account contains multiple inconsistencies. Cannot prove wrongdoing, but something feels wrong." Marcus stared at the words. Something feels wrong. The same feeling he experienced after Daniel's death. The same instinct. The same warning. As investigators dug deeper, they found another disturbing detail. Months before the fire, Evelyn's father had increased the family's insurance coverage. Significantly, the payout had been substantial. And the sole surviving beneficiary? Evelyn. Marcus slowly set the file down. His stomach tightened. No, surely not. She had been 14, a child. Yet the pattern was there. Even then, psychologists reviewed Evelyn's journals and history. Their conclusions were chilling. One expert summarized it simply, Evelyn appears incapable of genuine empathy. Other people exist only as tools, obstacles, or opportunities. Marcus wasn't surprised. But the report contained another observation. Possibility. The psychologist believed Evelyn's violence wasn't motivated by greed alone. It was motivated by control. She couldn't tolerate losing control. Whenever someone threatened her secrets, her identity, or her future plans, they became targets. Money was simply a reward. Control was the real motive. Suddenly everything made sense. Thomas Reed, Michael Brooks, Daniel Carter, Ryan Mercer. Each had reached a point where they threatened her carefully constructed world. Each had become dangerous, and each had died. Then came the breakthrough, a forgotten witness, a woman named Eleanor Price, now 82 years old. She had lived next door to Evelyn's family when the fire occurred. Marcus flew out immediately. Eleanor greeted him cautiously. When shown Evelyn's photograph, her face hardened. "I remember her. What can you tell me?" The elderly woman's hands trembled. "For years nobody believed me." Marcus leaned forward. "Believed what?" Eleanor looked directly into his eyes. "I saw her." The room fell silent. "Saw her where?" "The night of the fire." Marcus felt his pulse quicken. "What exactly did you see?" The old woman swallowed. "I saw Evelyn leave the house." A chill swept through the room. "What time?" "Before the fire started." Marcus stared. "You are certain?" "Absolutely." Eleanor's eyes filled with sadness. "She wasn't running." Marcus frowned. "What do you mean?" The old woman whispered. "She was smiling." The investigation exploded. Suddenly the possibility emerged that Evelyn's first victims weren't husbands. They were her own family. If true, she hadn't started killing as an adult. She had started as a child. A terrifying possibility, and one that explained everything that followed. Meanwhile, Evelyn sat inside an abandoned farmhouse near the state border. She had moved again, changed vehicles, changed appearance, changed routines, old habits, necessary habits. But for the first time in years, exhaustion was catching up with her. The walls were closing in. Marcus was getting closer, closer than anyone ever had. She stared at an old photograph, one she had carried for decades. The photograph showed her family, her parents, her younger brother, all smiling, all dead. A faint smile crossed her lips, then disappeared. Late that night, Marcus received an unexpected call. Not from police, not from a witness, from Evelyn herself. Again. "You're learning," she said. Marcus remained calm. "You killed them, didn't you?" Silence. Then a soft laugh. "Which ones?" The answer chilled him. Not because it admitted guilt, because it implied there were too many victims to count. "Your family." Pause followed. Longer this time. Then she spoke. "You know what's funny?" Marcus waited. "Everyone always assumes monsters look different." Her voice remained eerily calm. "They expect scars, rage, madness." Another pause. "But monsters look exactly like everyone else." The line crackled. Marcus listened carefully. Rain, wind, a train horn in the distance. Every sound mattered. Every clue mattered. "Why did you do it?" he asked. For the first time, her voice changed. Not emotional, not guilty, simply cold. "Because they were going to ruin everything." Marcus froze. "Everything. Not money, not insurance. Everything." The statement revealed more than she intended. And she knew it immediately. The line disconnected. Using audio specialists, investigators analyzed the background sounds from the call. The train horn became the key. Only 3 rail lines matched the acoustic profile. One crossed near an abandoned agricultural region. Search teams mobilized. Again. This time Marcus was certain. The chase was nearing its end. Just before dawn, a patrol officer discovered a stolen vehicle hidden behind an abandoned grain silo. Fresh footprints led toward a cluster of deserted farm buildings. Marcus arrived within minutes. Rain soaked the ground. The footprints remained clear. Recent. Very recent. Officers spread out. Weapons drawn. The atmosphere felt electric. Dangerous. Then Marcus spotted movement inside the largest barn. A shadow. Someone was there. He signaled the team. Slowly they advanced. Step by step. Closer. Closer. Then a voice echoed from inside. Calm. Almost welcoming. "Hello, Marcus." Every officer froze. The voice belonged to Evelyn. She knew they were there, and she wasn't running. Marcus's instincts screamed a warning. This wasn't surrender. This was a trap. And somewhere inside that dark barn, the most dangerous woman he had ever hunted was waiting. The final confrontation had begun. Rain hammered the roof of the abandoned barn. The sound echoed through the darkness like distant gunfire. Detective Marcus Hale stood at the entrance, weapon drawn. Behind him, officers took positions around the building. Every exit was covered, every escape route blocked. After months of investigation, years of hidden crimes, and countless victims, the hunt had finally come to an end. Somewhere inside the barn stood Evelyn Carter, the woman who had spent decades building her life on lies, the woman suspected of multiple murders, the woman who had escaped justice for far too long. And now she was waiting. Marcus. Her voice floated through the darkness. Calm, controlled, unafraid. Marcus stepped inside. Dust drifted through shafts of gray morning light. The barn was enormous. Old farming equipment sat abandoned beneath tarps. Broken wooden beams stretched overhead. The atmosphere felt strangely still, almost peaceful. Then he saw her. Evelyn stood on an elevated platform at the far end of the barn. She wore dark clothing. Her hair was tied back. One hand rested casually at her side. The other held a handgun. Neither moved. For several seconds, they simply stared at each other. Hunter and hunted. Detective and killer. Truth and deception. You should surrender. Evelyn smiled faintly. You know I won't. Marcus nodded. He had expected that answer. There's nowhere left to run. She laughed softly. You still think this is about escape? Marcus remained silent. That's why you've never truly understood me. For months, Marcus had imagined this moment. He expected anger, hatred, fear. Instead, he found something else. Pride. Evelyn looked proud, as though she had accomplished something remarkable. And perhaps in her twisted mind she had. She had fooled everyone. For years. You murdered Daniel. She shrugged. Yes. The admission hung in the air. No hesitation. No denial. Nothing. Just the truth. At last, Marcus felt a strange satisfaction. After months of lies, hearing the truth sounded almost refreshing. You murdered Michael Brooks. Yes. Thomas Reed. Yes. Marcus stared. No emotion. No regret. Nothing. Ryan Mercer. Her smile disappeared. Ryan was weak. Marcus waited. He would have betrayed me eventually. The casual response chilled him more than any denial ever could. A man's life reduced to a minor inconvenience. And your family? For the first time, silence followed. A long silence. Then Evelyn looked away. Not ashamed. Not sorrowful. Simply remembering. When she finally spoke, her voice was quieter. I was 14. Marcus said nothing. I discovered something. What? A faint smile crossed her face. The truth. Marcus frowned. What truth? That people only care about themselves. The answer felt rehearsed. Something she had convinced herself of years ago. Something she used to justify everything that followed. My father was going to send me away. Marcus listened carefully. Where? A psychiatric institution. The words echoed through the barn. For the first time, pieces began falling together. He knew something was wrong. Her expression hardened. He thought he could control me. Marcus finally understood. The fire, the family, the beginning of everything. They were going to ruin my future. The exact words she had used during the phone call. Not money, not insurance. Control. Always control. You set the fire. She nodded. Slowly, calmly, as though discussing the weather. Yes. Marcus closed his eyes briefly. 3 murders. Before adulthood. The first step in a lifetime of violence. When he opened them again, Evelyn was watching him carefully, studying him, analyzing him, the way she analyzed everyone. Do you know what's fascinating about you, Marcus? He remained silent. You never stopped. Her voice carried genuine curiosity. Most detectives would have accepted Daniel's death as a suicide. Maybe. But not you. A small smile appeared. You were annoying. Marcus almost laughed. After everything she had done, that was her assessment. Annoying. Outside, officers slowly tightened their positions. The situation remained dangerous. One wrong move could trigger violence. Marcus needed to keep her talking, keep her focused, keep her alive long enough to face justice. You studied me. She nodded. For months. Why? Because you were the only threat. The statement carried no exaggeration, no flattery, just fact. In her mind, Marcus was the first person who had truly challenged her. Then something unexpected happened. Evelyn lowered the gun slightly, not enough to be safe, but enough to suggest exhaustion. Years of deception suddenly seemed visible. The fake identities, the lies, the manipulation, the constant fear of exposure. For the first time, she looked tired, very tired. It's over, Evelyn. The words echoed softly. She looked around the barn, at the officers, at the exits, at the gray sky beyond the broken boards. Finally, she nodded. Yes. Marcus took a careful step forward. Put the gun down. For a moment it seemed she might. Then she smiled. And Marcus immediately knew something was wrong. Very wrong. You still don't understand. His grip tightened. What? Her smile widened. The secret. Marcus frowned. What secret? She looked directly into his eyes. The one I never told you. A chill raced through him. Because the expression on her face wasn't fear. It wasn't defeat. It was triumph. Then she revealed the truth. The final truth. The one hidden beneath everything else. The one nobody had discovered. Not Marcus. Not the FBI. Nobody. There was never just one Evelyn. Marcus froze. What? She laughed softly. You spent months hunting me. Confusion flashed across his face. Then, realization. Slow. Terrible. Impossible. You mean? I wasn't always alone. The barn suddenly felt colder. Much colder. For years, investigators had assumed Evelyn acted independently. One killer. One mastermind. One predator. But now another possibility emerged. An accomplice. Partner. Someone hidden in the shadows. Someone who had never been identified. Someone still free. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Who? Evelyn smiled. The same cold smile she had worn for decades. The wrong question. Then what's the right question? Her eyes gleamed. Where? Before Marcus could react, a loud crack echoed through the barn. A gunshot. Not from Evelyn. From somewhere outside. Chaos erupted instantly. Officers shouted. Weapons raised. Marcus spun toward the sound. Then back toward Evelyn. But she was already moving. The gun slipped from her hand. Not dropped. Thrown away. Almost deliberately. For the first time since entering the barn, genuine fear appeared in her eyes. She wasn't afraid of the police. She was afraid of whoever had fired that shot. The mysterious accomplice. The secret partner. The ghost hidden behind decades of murder. And somewhere outside the barn, that person had just arrived. The gunshot shattered the tense silence. Officers scrambled for cover. Weapons were drawn in every direction. For a brief moment, chaos ruled the barn. But Detective Marcus Hale noticed something far more important. Evelyn Carter was terrified. I'm not nervous. Not concerned. Terrified. The expression on her face was unlike anything he had seen before. And that realization chilled him. Because if a woman like Evelyn was afraid, then whoever was outside might be even more dangerous. Who is it? Marcus demanded. Evelyn didn't answer. Another gunshot echoed outside. Then shouting. Officers moved toward the source. Marcus never took his eyes off Evelyn. Who is out there? For the first time in months, she looked vulnerable. Her voice emerged as barely a whisper. I never thought they'd come. Marcus's pulse quickened. They? She nodded. Slowly. Almost reluctantly. The person who taught me. The words hit like a hammer. Taught her? Marcus suddenly understood. This wasn't merely an accomplice. This was a mentor, someone who had shaped her, guided her, helped create the monster she became. Outside, officers secured a figure hiding near a tree line. Within minutes, the suspect was brought into the barn. Handcuffed, gray-haired, nearly 70 years old, thin, ordinary-looking, harmless. Yet the moment Evelyn saw him, all color drained from her face. Marcus looked between them. The older man smiled. Not warmly, not kindly, coldly, like a predator recognizing another predator. "Hello, Evelyn." The woman who had terrorized investigators for months took a step backward. Marcus demanded answers. The old man eventually identified himself as Vincent Rowe's former mentor. His real name was Arthur Kane. For decades, Kane had operated in the shadows. Identity fraud, financial scams, disappearances, manipulation. He rarely committed crimes himself. Instead, he trained others, taught them how to exploit trust, how to reinvent themselves, how to survive. 20 years earlier, he had met a 14-year-old girl who fascinated him, Evelyn Brooks. The story that emerged was horrifying. After the fire that killed her family, Evelyn crossed paths with Arthur Kane. Most adults saw a traumatized child. Kane saw something else, potential. He recognized the darkness inside her, the lack of empathy, the need for control. Instead of helping her, he nurtured it, encouraged it, refined it. Over the years, he taught her how to lie convincingly, how to manipulate emotions, how to disappear when necessary, how to become whoever she needed to be. Together, they built the foundation for every identity that followed, every deception, every victim. Marcus listened in disbelief. "You helped her kill people?" Arthur smiled. "No." The answer came quickly, too quickly. Marcus wasn't convinced. Neither was anyone else. But before more questions could be asked, Evelyn suddenly laughed. A strange laugh, bitter, almost sad. Everyone turned toward her. For the first time, her mask was cracking. "You think he made me?" She looked directly at Marcus. "He didn't." Her voice trembled slightly. "I was already broken." Silence filled the barn. "He just gave me tools." Marcus saw something unexpected in her eyes. Not remorse. Not exactly. But recognition. As if she finally understood what she had become. For years, Evelyn blamed others. Her parents. Her victims. Circumstances. Anyone except herself. But now there was nowhere left to hide. No lies remaining. No identities remaining. Only the truth. And the truth was simple. Every choice had been hers. Every murder. Every betrayal. Every life was destroyed. Arthur Kane was taken away first. Investigators would spend years unraveling his crimes. Many mysteries across several states would eventually be connected to him. But his story was no longer Marcus's priority. Evelyn was. The woman is responsible for so much suffering. The woman who had started it all. As officers approached to arrest her, Evelyn looked toward the broken barn windows. The rain had stopped. Sunlight was beginning to appear through the clouds. A strange calm settled over her. Marcus watched carefully. No sudden movements. No resistance. No tricks. After months of pursuit, the fight seemed gone. "Do you regret it?" Marcus asked quietly. The question surprised everyone. Even Evelyn. She stared at him for several seconds. Then I looked away. The answer, when it came, was almost inaudible. No. The honesty hurt more than any lie. Not because Marcus expected remorse, but because it confirmed what the investigation had revealed all along. She truly felt none. Officers placed handcuffs around her wrists. The sound echoed softly through the barn. A small sound, yet it represented the end of decades of deception. The end of multiple identities. The end of a killer's freedom. Months later, the trial captivated the nation. Evidence filled the courtroom. Financial records, forensic reports, witness testimony, the recovered journals. the confession, everything. One by one, the victims finally received a voice. Thomas Reed, Michael Brooks, Daniel Carter, Ryan Mercer, and the family lost in the fire years earlier. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. The verdict was unanimous. Guilty, on every count. As sentencing began, the judge described Evelyn's crimes as among the most calculated and cold-blooded he had ever encountered. The courtroom remained silent. Victims' families wept. Reporters filled notebooks. Cameras flashed. Evelyn sat motionless, expressionless, almost bored, as though the proceedings concerned someone else. She was sentenced to spend the remainder of her life behind bars. There is no possibility of release. There is no chance to reinvent herself. No new identities. No new victims. For the first time since she was 14 years old, there would be no escape. After the trial, Marcus visited Daniel Carter's grave. The case had consumed nearly a year of his life. Rain clouds drifted slowly overhead. The air felt peaceful. Finally, he stood quietly for several minutes, thinking about justice, thinking about the cost of truth, thinking about how close evil can hide beneath a beautiful smile. Then, he placed a small stone beside the headstone and turned away. The case was over. The secrets were exposed. The lies were buried. And the woman who betrayed everyone who ever loved her would never again walk free. The end. Moral: the most dangerous betrayals often come from those we trust the most. Lies can survive for years, but truth has a way of emerging. One clue, one witness, and one act of courage at a time.